Okay, here we are, the 6th episode, which is pretty crazy. Making progress. This episode probably gonna be a little bit quicker, but gonna be recapping the race that I competed in, the Suffern Bear Ultra Marathon. It was a 50K, and spoiler alert, I survived. It went well, pretty well, better than expected. But I'm just going to go over everything, and then hopefully some people who were following along or something can gain some insight of the whole process of everything. But yeah, so first, I guess, thank you for everyone for supporting. It was very cool. There was a live tracking system, or like it would at least like update at every aid station to see how I'm doing and like where I'm placed at. And so when I checked my phone after, I could see all like the group chats and people texting me like supporting. It was awesome, very cool. And it was cool because like I feel like it's introducing a lot of people to the concept of ultras, because I feel like a lot of people just don't really know that they exist. So it was cool. Got a lot of support, very appreciative. It was very cool. My family was there, and my aunt was there with her boyfriend, who lived nearby, and it was awesome. It was very nice. My aunt made a funny sign, and everyone was so excited. It was awesome. That feeling of getting in and finishing it was just amazing. But yeah, my result. So my official time was, I believe, like 7 hours and 56 minutes. And I ended up in 18th place, which is pretty cool. It was out of like 50 people, so pretty cool. I'm just going to kind of go over the different I feel like the race kind of split into a couple sections. So the beginning section, I would say to like, I don't know, like the first like 6 or so miles would probably be the first section, maybe the first 7. I'm just looking at like the splits for the race right now, just like my from Strava, which I had to track the race on. So the first section was, I think I would just my mistake here was going a little bit too fast. Because it was road, I think I was just pushing it a little bit. My paces here kind of ranged from like low 10-minute to 12-minute. I should have been sticking to my goal time, which was sub 15-minute pace. I just like kind of was, I think, a little bit over eager, which is fair, but that is something that I need to work on, which I think I made the same mistake with the last marathon. It's just like being like, oh my gosh, like I feel good. Maybe I'll do better than my time. I need to just focus on closer to my time. So I should have been starting these and sticking to like 13-minute. Or 14-minute at like the quickest. But yeah, so that leads into, from 8 miles on was where the tougher climbing started. So like 8 mile was like a 14, the 9th mile was a 15, 10th mile was a 16, and it stayed around that area. I don't remember the 100% specifics, but I can see like the elevation gain to where it was like a tougher climb. The first aid station was, I believe, 7 miles in. I made my first mistake here because I didn't get anything from the aid station. Because so I have 4 bottles of water on me in my pack. Like I have a bladder in my back, which in the future I'll probably go no bladder and just go with the bottles because how much I can refill at my aid stations. But so I had thought I only drank 1 bottle and I was feeling good, so I just ran by the aid station. I didn't realize I had drank 3. So then or 2 or 3, so then I should have just restocked. I mean, in the future, it was stupid. I should have restocked at every aid station, but I didn't. And that was a mistake of mine that I made. I think I was just feeling overconfident and being like, oh, like the next aid station will only be in 3 miles. The next aid station was like 6 more miles. It was like a loop back into that same aid station. So that was definitely a mistake that I made. But then, so those miles until the turnaround were pretty good. Then I felt good from like 15 to probably like 21. Felt solid. No major issues. And I think when I started climbing to that like 23 to 29, like the 23 to 29 range was terrible, really bad. Because when I got to 29, I realized that when I got to 30, and I got to the aid station that was 3 miles away. So I was like, this sucks. Like, I thought it was going to be 30. It was supposed to be 31.1 is a 50K. So I was ready for that. And so it was a little bit crushing to be like, this is going to be at least like 32 to 32 and a half. So these, like this, like mile 24 to 30 were pretty terrible. It was a lot of hiking. My splits kind of went from like by 22 miles, only one of my miles had been past a 15-minute pace. Then mile 23 was 16:37, 24 was 17:42, 25 was 18, 26 was almost 20 minutes, 27 was 17 minutes, 28 was 16 minutes, 29 was 17 minutes, 30 was 18 minutes, 31 was 19 minutes. So yeah, this is where I lost a lot of the time. I think this is where the overrunning in the beginning hurt me. But I mean, it's good to know. I can see this data and know where I messed up. But yeah, so my average pace overall was 14:34, which is better than what I was aiming. I was aiming for sub 15 pace. So that part went perfectly well, which is great. And then just random facts about the race. So it ended up being 32.61 miles, 7 hours, 55 minutes, and 24 seconds is what my watch tracked. 14:34 per mile, 5,236 feet of elevation, and 5,440 calories, it says, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, the loop was a 16-mile loop that ended up being done twice. But yeah, I guess I'll go over my food and hydration. So my general tactic and what I was doing for my training ones is just fruit snacks and sometimes a protein bar, but generally just fruit snacks. So during the race, I was on every 45 minutes I would have a fruit snack. They're Mott's fruit snacks. And I would just drink kind of as much water as I could, because I knew that would be a potential blocker. But yeah, primarily fruit snacks. And then hydration wise, it was probably so I filled up 2 of my bottles with liquid IV and my bladder with liquid IV, and then the other ones were water. And then when I'd get to aid stations, I would kind of do half. They had Scratch, which is basically liquid IV, and then half water, because just sometimes my stomach wanted water, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it wanted the liquid IV. And liquid IV has calories too, which is good. Then when I kind of reached the aid station, I guess the second time I hit the aid station, the fruit snacks were not feeling good anymore. So I started having these goo waffle things. It's like a honey waffle, kind of just, I don't know, it gives you energy. They were good. I ended up throughout the race probably having 4 of those. But at these aid stations, it was much different than so when I ran my road marathon, it was just waters and goos, which are these it's kind of like a paste of just it's like fruit snacks kind of crushed up, kind of, I don't know. It just gives you a bunch of energy, and it's a common running thing because it doesn't hurt your stomach. But for ultras, since you're walking a lot more and you're not pushing the pace as hard, it's more for the distance. They'll have real food. So they did have stuff they had bananas, they had random fruits, they had just bread, they had bacon, they had quesadillas, they had candy, they had everything that you can imagine. They had soda, they had everything you can imagine. But I was sticking to what I knew. So I did stick to, I didn't find that the food was an issue at all for me. So I was just sticking to the fruit snacks. I enjoyed it. Nothing really went wrong. Hydration was perfect. Food was probably a 8 out of 10, just because I think I need to train my stomach to have some regular food for future. But yeah, so I would say that the hydration went pretty good overall. Yeah. So, next, I kind of went over this, but it being 32.6 miles kind of was hard, just because at least I kind of knew, because I got to that aid station, I knew there was 3 miles left when I was only at 29 and a half. But it did suck. It was really painful, because I was really ready to just die I was ready to be at 31 and just be done. But I had to just mentally prepare, which was a little hiccup, but it was good overall. The 32.6 mile extra little bit wasn't great, but it was a good practice to be know that I have a little bit of extra in the tank. And then my schedule that morning, so I went to bed probably at 9:30. Then I woke up at 4, which was 6.5 hours, 7 hours. I don't know. So I got a good night of sleep. And yeah, so I woke up. I had a breakfast that I usually just have on a regular morning, which was bagel with butter and jam, and then 3 eggs, I think. And yeah, it was good. I wanted to be able to use the bathroom before, but I kind of just I don't know. My tactic here was just to go about my normal schedule and just let the bathroom trip hit me. For the TMI. So yeah, I ate breakfast, didn't use the bathroom. I just watched an episode of TV, relaxed, drank a ton of water, and then I was at the door. It was an hour away from me. It was nice because it was empty roads completely, so easy drive down. And then I get there. It's still pitch black. The 50 milers had already started, so my race start time was 7. I got there at 6:15. The 50 milers had started at 5:30. So yeah, I get in, I check in, I get the t-shirt. The t-shirt was pretty cool. It's always funny because they give you it before, and if you DNF, it must be weird to own the shirt but be not finish the race. But yeah, I go to the bathroom, do my business. It was literally every stall was filled. Everybody was pooping. It was crazy. I was at least we're all on the same page. Then a cockroach crawled across the floor while I was in the bathroom. It was pretty nasty. Yeah. But all went well. I felt prepared. I went to the car. I got my pack on. I finished with whatever the last things I needed. I decided against bringing a couple things. I didn't bring a rain jacket because I checked the weather and it said it was fine. I'm trying to think. Oh, but no, I think I ended up checking it 10 minutes before the race, and then I saw that there was rain again, so I think I ended up packing it. I'm not sure. Didn't end up needing it, which was good. But then I go get ready at the start line. The director gives a little speech just about everything, just basic information. And then we get started. I'm not gonna run through the whole race, but I'm just gonna highlight some weird things, or just things that I learned. So being a trail race, it can be very narrow, and at the beginning of the race, people were much closer together, so there was a lot of passing each other. So it would just be awkward, so you'd have to kind of go up behind someone and kick a rock loudly, so then they'd be oh, you can pass me. It wasn't competitive, but it was just awkward. Yeah, that was one thing. Second thing was just the difference in kit that people brought. I think it's the prepared versus the veterans versus non-veterans. Me as a non-veteran, I probably overpacked, which makes me technically slower over time. The guy who ended up winning it ran it in 4:46, which is pretty crazy. And he had no pack on, just shorts. Maybe had a water bottle that he was holding. But he was obviously in phenomenal shape, and I believe he won it the previous year also. But yeah. Then just a funny thing in the race. So there's this guy that kind of I was around him the whole race until the end, which he ended up passing me towards the end. But he smelled so bad. He clearly had not worn deodorant, and he was sweating really, really badly. And he was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, so he was extra sweating. And so when I didn't realize he was behind me at first, and then he passed me, and then I was directly behind him, and I was getting destroyed by the smell, and it was actually messing me up mentally. I was I can't do this is so bad. So then I passed him, and then 10 minutes later he passed me again, and the same thing happened. And throughout the whole race, I would probably say I probably spent 2 hours of the race just directly behind this dude, just inhaling the fumes. Which I think, obviously it wasn't a huge mess up, but it screwed up my early mental a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. At least for the worst part of the race, I wasn't with him, because that would have sucked even more. But yeah, it was funny. He was also wearing Skechers, which was crazy. Velcro Skechers to an ultra trail race. They had no traction, no grip. He was just destroying the race. He did really well. He probably got 12th or something. I don't know. He was ahead of me, which was very like impressive to see because he literally just had Skechers, Velcro Skechers, t-shirt, sweatpants, and a plastic water bottle, and that's it. Like, that's insane. I wonder what he was like eating and stuff. But yeah, and then the ending was awesome. I like obviously struggled from like 25 to like 30, but then that last, or like to like probably like 25 to like 31, honestly, like to maybe 32. But that last, like, I just like found that last little bit of gas for the last bit because it was pavement, so I could kind of push it a little bit extra. So my last little bit was like a little bit of like as much of a sprint as I could. But yeah, and then my family was there at the end. It was awesome, very nice experience with them. It was awesome. It's always nice to have support with you. And then I guess, I just kind of wrote down like the 2-loop 16-mile model, just how they did. I don't know if it's normal for races like this, but I guess because it's a very like kind of like a smaller operation, it's easier to do a 2-loop, like a 2-loop model, because they basically only had to set up one aid station out in the, like, not in the woods, but like in the middle of the course, that you basically hit twice per loop. And then the starting line was also an aid station. So when you do the first loop and then you hit the aid station, it was basically a figure eight. So you hit the middle, then you do one half of the figure eight, you're back at that aid station, then you do the other figure eight, and then halfway through that is the start aid station. But yeah, I didn't like that there was like probably like 3 miles total of pavement, maybe 4, probably 3. Which sucked at the beginning. The end, it hurt, but it was nicer because I could go a lot faster. So it did help me with my pacing a little bit. Like, I still ended up going under 8 hours, and I wouldn't have gone under 8 hours unless it was pavement. And then just comparing this to the marathon, I kind of knew, I told people, like, I don't imagine being as sore, and most people were kind of just like, a little bit confused, which is fair because it's more miles, but like, genuinely, the pavement makes such a difference. Like, after my marathon, I was pretty destroyed. My quads and my calves were destroyed, like literally frozen. Like, I had to like death march the last 2 miles of the marathon because my legs were so destroyed. Like, I was going at like a 14-minute pace, like trudging, like in so much pain. This one I ended as I expected. It was a more distributed soreness. Like, I could stand, I was totally fine. I was able to talk, chat, everything was good. And after the marathon in May, I had no appetite that whole day. Even the next day, I was a little bit messed up. This one, I was instantly hungry. Oh, because I smelled bacon on the last aid station, so I was like, okay, when I finish, I need bacon. So when I passed the finish line, I immediately grabbed bacon, which is lit. But yeah, I had an appetite, and then even later that day, I'll talk about it in a second. But I ended up like eating a ton of food, which is like nice because I had an appetite. I think the marathon really was bad for my whole system. And then, end of the race, it felt amazing. I was like, oh my God, I finished this. I did it. I set out, I completed my training, and I did it. And it was nice to see that my training plan was good. Basically everything went to plan. No major issues. And then also as my race ended, it started raining. So I was lucky that I wasn't out there while it was raining. Because it was like pouring for a little bit, and I just got lucky, like straight up. That was very lucky. And then, because it also rained during my marathon, which is just funny because like it's rained both times I've had races. But then my appetite after, I had the bacon, I had like a Coke, I had a donut. And then on the way home, I got Wendy's, which was awesome. And then I got food on campus also a little bit after. So, actually having an appetite was nice. And then recovery-wise, I went for an active recovery route, definitely. I did a short bike the next day. I basically biked every day this week. I'm recording this on the Thursday, and I raced on Saturday. So I've just been going for walks, doing heating, ibuprofen, getting a lot of sleep. Sunday, I think I slept like at least 12 hours. And I woke up on Sunday extremely sore. Going down the stairs was like really, really, really tough. I was still able to walk. I did probably like a 1.5 mile walk really slowly. Then Monday I had a slight foot pain. Then my left Achilles was really, really sore. I was getting better with stairs. It was still hard going downstairs, but not as bad. Tuesday was just kind of like general body soreness, not too bad. Still, other than my right foot was having this tiny bit of pain. It was like a 2 out of 10 on the pain scale, but I was just aware of it. Then Wednesday was feeling a lot better, probably like 90%. And then today, I feel like I'm at like 98% perfect. My foot hasn't bothered me today, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I would say like for me, active recovery was throughout a lot of muscle rolling, a lot of stretching, heat, ibuprofen, eating a lot of food, getting a ton of water. I think is always great. And overall, like if my training plan felt adequate, I would say yeah. Overall, I'm just trying to look like what the most I ran in a week. I think I was probably averaging around 40 long term, big picture. The most I ran in a week was 61. Which my longest run in the total like period was 21 miles, which is pretty crazy because like obviously that's 10 miles less than the actual, but I felt way better. Where my marathon, the longest I ran, was also 21 miles, but I felt unprepared for that one. So yeah, and then elevation wise, the most elevation I had in a week was just about 7,000. I was probably averaging like 4,000 ish. It was hard during the work weeks because I'd only get to get on the trail like once or twice a week. But yeah, I mean, I was trying to get as much elevation as possible. I have a whole training plan. But yeah, so what was missing? I think just strength training. I need to get a little bit of, the downhills destroyed my legs. I need to get more downhill running practice, and then just strength training. I'm going to add some gym routine, even just like twice a week, and then doing a lot more at home stuff like core. But I would say overall, it was strength training for my legs, because my legs are the only thing that were starting to give out. My fitness felt perfect. It was like my pace slowed down because my body, like my legs more so than like being fatigued, if that makes sense. Like, because fitness wise I felt pretty dialed in and pretty good. But I mean, now just like, what am I going to do now? I'm probably going to, I might go for a run tomorrow if my foot is 100% fine. But yeah, I mean, I was imagining taking a full week off. That's probably what the goal is. I might take a small run tomorrow just to see where I'm at. And then I guess the big question is like, what am I going to do next? This is a much smaller race, but I think I'm going to do first my local like turkey trot run, just for fun to get a little faster, try the 5K. But then long term, I was originally thinking between the road marathon, trying the same one, getting a better time, or doing a 50-mile ultra. And I don't know, I don't really want to do the marathon again. Like, it really just wasn't very fun. It didn't make me feel very good. So I'm probably going to lean towards a 50-mile ultra. I have not decided yet. Going to give it a couple weeks before I lock in on anything. I think I'm just kind of trying to enjoy the moment, and that I didn't accomplish what my goal was, and that I'm just focused on getting back to 100%, so then I can just start running regularly, not having a training plan, and then just kind of see where I end up. But yeah, and then I asked my family to like ask me some questions that they might have been wondering that they didn't get to ask me about the race. So the first one was, when you were listening to nothing, like listening to no music, what were you thinking? So this is just to give some clarification. The first 16 miles, first loop, I did no music, no nothing. Second half, I did music. I listened to the whole Hamilton soundtrack. I listened to some podcasts, some music, and then I literally just got sick of everything, so then I just stopped. But when I was listening to nothing, early on, I was kind of just worried about pacing. I kept checking my watch and my heart rate a lot, which I think was messing up my heart rate a little because I was really nervous. And then like when I was in like the cave of like despair from like mile 25, 24 to 30, I was just like they had pink flags marking the trail. I was literally just looking for the next pink flag. Like it was very thinking short term and just being like, where's the next pink flag? Where's the next pink flag? Where's the next pink flag? So it was my tactic and it did work pretty well. And then was there any point that I thought I wouldn't finish the race? No, I kind of just knew that I was on a decent pace, and I knew if I kept my pace, like there wasn't any chance of getting cut off because I knew I was like hours from the cutoff time. And I wasn't in as bad shape as I was for the marathon. I knew like if I didn't quit on the marathon when I was at 0, then I wasn't going to quit on this because I felt a lot better. I felt a lot more confident coming into this one. Next question, was there any regrets of any parts of your training? I mean, I wish I did more leg strength training. And then I would say, I mean, this was out of my control, but I wish I got maybe some more miles in on trails, but it was just like how my schedule worked. Then what I think the biggest difference is between running the marathon and running the ultra. I would just genuinely, it's pavement. For me, pavement was so painful. I think this could be another reason that the marathon didn't go well, was because I was running on pretty old shoes. Not like the shoes had about 500 miles on, so they were at the end of their life. So I think it probably wasn't good to end it with that. But I was already planning on switching shoes, so I didn't want to buy a new pair, and I didn't want to switch shoes, so I stuck with what I had. But yeah, I would say pavement was the biggest difference because pavement just crushes your legs. Where trails, you can get like an even distribution of soreness and pain. And then, I mean, time on feet, like this was double the time on feet compared to my marathon. And it's a lot more thinking. Feels a lot more like solo. Like it feels like it feels more psychological than the marathon. The marathon is like, you know exactly what to expect. It's going to be road, and then you're going to get exactly what you paced out. Where this, like, I didn't know which mile was going to be an incline, which was going to be a decline, and stuff like that. The most difficult aspect of the trail, or of the race, like when it came to trails, like whether it was like the uphill, downhill, or pavement, I would say big picture was the downhills. Like I didn't mind the uphills because I was kind of just power hiking it. But the downhills were really painful because I couldn't really go that fast. Couldn't go as fast as I would have liked, especially for trail downhills. Like you have to be careful, but then also like it destroys your quads. But then, I mean, the end of the race, the pavement also sucked. Just not fun for just general leg pain. Then the next question was, how was the post-race bacon? It was amazing. When I hit that mile 38 station, I smelled the bacon. I was like, I can't eat it now, but I need bacon. So getting into the finish line, all I was thinking was the bacon, and it was amazing. It was glorious. And I finished it, and then there was no more, which was sad. So yeah, those last 3 miles, it was just bacon thoughts. And then the second to last question. What state do you think one of these races would be toughest in the U.S.? That's the first. I'll answer the first question. I would say... Well, I guess I'll say the next part of the question too, because and would you rather do a race in 10-degree weather or 100-degree weather? So I just know of a couple of races that are definitely some of the most insane and toughest. But like, if I was talking strictly state-wise, for me, I would say like Florida, or like, I don't know, like probably in that area. Like a Florida summer one would be terrible. General, but like in Arizona, like Nevada would also suck. I think Florida would be probably the worst. Florida's pretty flat, so if I was saying like the Florida conditions with maybe some hills, so I mean, if you're in the right area of the South, I think it would just get really bad heat-wise. Because to me, I feel like the heat would probably be my weakness. But there's a race called the Moab 240, which is a 200, I think it's 240, maybe 238. Mile race in Utah, and I don't know what time of year it's at, but it's been recorded that some days can reach 80 degrees during the day and then drop below freezing to like 15 degrees at night. So like that level of temperature change just has to be brutal. Another one, Badwater 135, 135-mile race in Death Valley. That is terrible, and I believe it's mostly on pavement, which is awful. Like this one might be the worst of all. So yeah, I would say, I mean, then there's also the element of like, if you do it in like Alaska, I'm sure it's terrible, but I don't know what I would hate more. I think they would both be terrible. And I think, even just like the Barkley, which I've talked about so many times, that has the same level of like, it'll have freezing rain during the day and then it'll be super hot or freezing rain during the night, super hot during the day. Like that's rough. So these multi-day events where you know you're going to get bad things and you kind of just have to be ready for it, definitely sucks. Then last, I was asked, any advice for others who want to try a similar race? I mean, obviously I'm not extremely experienced in this. This is only my first ultra and my second race that was a marathon or longer. But yeah, I mean, I would say if you want to do it, but like plan far in advance, and then have somewhat of a training plan, even if it's just a little bit of research, understanding the concept of like, you want to have like your long runs, you want to have as many of your runs as possible on the surface that you'll be doing the race. So in my case, I wanted to get a lot on trails. I couldn't get a lot on trails, but I was doing at least my long run every weekend was going to be on trails. Definitely important. You want to get used to whatever you're going to be racing on. I would say, yeah, I mean, get out there as much as you can, but and then keep 90 to 95% of your runs at an easy pace. You're going for time on feet. You're going for building that like aerobic base. And then, yeah, I mean, plan far in advance. This was a 19-week training plan. My marathon, I believe, was, it was 17 weeks training. So I would say 20 is probably the sweet spot. But if you're doing a race like this off of less experience, maybe a little bit longer, just kind of judge it. I mean, if you can hold a 30 to 40 mile week, then you're fine, like consistently not getting injured, then I feel like you're probably ready for a 50K. But yeah, I mean, get a lot of elevation and just try to train on the conditions that you would be racing in. And yeah, I mean, make sure you actually enjoy running. I wouldn't plan this as like a punishment for yourself. Like, make sure you actually enjoy it. Like, I did this because I like it. But yeah, I mean, doing hard things is fun. I mean, I enjoyed doing this race. I got a lot of joy out of it. I got a lot of joy out of just like living in the moment, and really, I felt so like in tune with myself. Yeah, I think it was like scratching that ultra itch. I mean, after my first exposure to ultras were probably through Nick Bear, which is a YouTuber that I've watched, I've watched occasionally. And he's like a big weightlifter, and he signed up for an ultra, and he did a 100-mile race, which was crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. And then I dove into everything else. I learned about the Barkley. I watched like some people do like PCT, fastest known times. I'd say the Barkley is my biggest inspiration, just like being like this sport is insane. But yeah, this has been a fun journey, and this is really should be only the beginning as long as I'm staying healthy, fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, this race went very well. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of what I did. And yeah, I'll announce on the podcast whatever my next challenge is. But yeah, this won't be my last ultra for sure. But yeah, that's about all I had prepared. This is episode 6 out of the 10 that I've planned for this year. I'm on a good pace. It is October 3rd. Feeling good. Yeah, I mean, just general life check-in. Life's pretty good. Busier. Getting busy during the semester, but I mean, life's good. I'm living in the moment. Nothing wrong. I've just been enjoying life. So, yeah, this is episode 6. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned more about this race that I competed in and why I love it so much. And maybe you still think I'm weird, but yeah, thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.